to get to all of the other books, but like, no one is going to be surprised by the book that made #1 this year. Let's just admit that right now. Hello, my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. How are ya? How did your year go? We've got a lot of catching up to do, don't we? We're here, obviously, to talk about my favorite books of 2023. You may have noticed that I have been a bad booktuber. Usually this is the last end of the year video that I do. We're done with the previous year, but because I've been a bad booktuber and I haven't done any of my wrap-ups, and there are other books that I want to, like, talk to people about. There is one more video that is going to be coming next week. This is my top 10. The last video you'll remember was my bottom 9, and so that's 19 out of 89, which leaves us with 70 more books to talk about. So I'm gonna find some way to give you guys my thoughts on 70 books in a format that doesn't take forever. But for now, let's just talk about my favorite books of 2023. There's like 2 books that were contender for top book of the year. You guys probably know them. I won't shut up about them. So like, pause the video right now and let me know which one do you think, like what book do you think is making my favorite book of the year? As with my least favorite books of the year, these are in no particular order except for the top 3. Side note, I do want to let you guys know that like this year was much easier than previous years because typically I have to choose from all of my 5-star books, and I had exactly 10 5-star books this year. That just kind of completes a part of me on the inside and makes me so happy. But without further ado, let's talk about these books. I am going to start with a book that was an unexpected favorite. I went into this book with the lowest of expectations because I've read one previous book from this author, and I wasn't, like, it wasn't bad, but I wasn't terribly impressed with it. I thought he could have done better when it came to the representation of the female characters. And then I picked this book up and, like, could not put the thing down. Like, I don't know if this was a mix of, like, the Amazing Readathon and needing to read it quickly, and the audiobook, and, like, people being excited that I was reading it because it was one of the host favorites. But, like, I just absolutely loved The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. In this one, we are following Gavin Guile. He is the Prism, which is basically like almost like a god emperor type thing. Like, he's basically the prime minister, and then there's a council involved, and he is he's like basically the King of England. He's not the one that does a lot of the actual governing, but he does go out and do like specific missions for things that they need him to do. In this world, there is spectrum magic. So every different color in the light spectrum has a magic that you're able to do with it, and Gavin is able to do all of them, which is why he is the Prism. This starts with him finding out that there is a boy that claims to be his son, and he has to deal with the political implications of that, as well as greater things that are happening in the world around him. I found the magic that Brent Weeks had come up with for this book to be so interesting. On the level of like the medals in Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series, that level of interesting and intricate, and Brent Weeks did such a good job explaining what the different magics did and giving us the chance to see all of them without the book getting bogged down. We're following several different perspectives. We've got Gavin. He is at what is probably going to be the end of his, he knows that he's kind of made it the farthest that most prisms go when he's expecting himself to start deteriorating rapidly. We have this child, or this teenage boy. We have someone who knew Gavin way back when, before this whole blow up with his brother happened. We are following Gavin's brother, who is currently imprisoned. There's a lot going on politically that he is dealing with, so if you like political fantasy, this is a fantastic one. If you like intricate and interesting magic systems, this is a fantastic one. We're dealing a lot in this one with the consequences of war and empire, and struggling with like Gavin's personal feelings about how people should be, and also like the fact that he's trying to keep this giant empire together and keep it from falling into chaos and ruin. This is just like a fantastic, epic, medieval type fantasy system, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. There was not a single moment where I was bored. There was not a single moment where I was like, well, I mean, there were a couple of moments where I was like, no, wait, go back. I want more, but don't stop there. That's mean. But like, I was never in a place where I was just like, oh, I can't believe we're in this. Well, the prisoner is a little bit of a, where I can't believe we're in this dude's point of view, but it was still also fascinating because you knew somehow it had to be attached. The next one that we're going to talk about is one that Cal and Brianna have been on me for forever to get me to read, because they knew I was gonna like it, and they were in fact correct. I don't ever doubt them. I just don't. When they say this is a Margaret book, it always ends up being a Margaret book. Sometimes I think that they might know my reading taste better than I do. My brain cannot break things down that way for anyone, let alone myself. But that book is going to be Year of the Reaper by Micaiah Lucier. There's a little bit of a fantastical element in this, but for the most part, it would fit in just with any medieval society. I do believe that it's like a fictional place. I actually never if it followed through to see if it was. It is so well done. We are following Cass, and he is returning home after having been captured and conscripted into a work gang. The land is dealing with the aftermath of not just this war that happened, but also with something coming through that is very much resemblant of the Black Death, and it just carved through people. Our friend Cass can see ghosts, so he kind of sometimes knows things that other people don't know. So basically somebody tries to kill the king's son on his like baptism or naming date or something like that, and Cass, being the person he is, ends up saving this baby boy and bringing him back. And so they decide that because he was there and seemed to know someone was going to try and attempt to kill the queen or the little prince or whatever it was, they decide that he should be the one to watch over them, and he gets pulled in because they're staying at his family home. There's a lot going on here, but number one, I love the little relationship that we ended up with Cass and another character that we meet. Like, it's just one of my favorite setups for a relationship. They had like a little bit of a meet ugly. It was a good time. He is still trying to like deal with all of the trauma from being in this work gang while also trying to acclimate back into the kind of noble life that he is expected to know. And then we've got this whole kind of mystery plot where we're trying to figure out who is trying to kill the queen or prince. I don't remember. You could tell that Micaiah Lucier really had done her research. There were details in here that I was like, yes, this is someone who is actually aware of how medieval society works. She really, like, you could tell she was getting her research from good places. It felt very realistic. It felt very much like something you would, like a heightened form of historical fantasy. I loved it. I had a great time listening to this. Highly recommend the audiobook. I loved Cass as a main character, and the way that this dealt with several different issues, I thought that they were really well done. After that, we've got Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. This is also part of the vlog that I did reading some of Brianna's favorite books that should be out by now. Otherwise, we're just gonna cut this section. A lot of these will have a vlog either out already, which will be linked down below, or coming out very soon. This book is about Gadriel, and Gadriel is the demon of petty temptations or something like that. Like, basically, he is a fallen angel, and he is a fallen angel that has a little bit of a gambling problem. The angel that has been acting as his bookie and also enabling Gadriel's gambling problem. Let's point that out. So Gadriel goes, that should be easy. Eating chocolate in this world is a sin. I can get a single point off of their record. And goes and finds that they have been assigned to the most untemptable woman on the planet. It is cute. It's adorable. Gadriel is so frustrated by this person and also kind of sort of starts falling in love with her. Be warned with the audiobook, because there are footnotes which are absolutely hilarious and adorable, and they didn't bother me at all, but it's like just like this little ding before the footnote so you know that it is a footnote. For me, that kind of added to the overall atmosphere of the book and really fit the very, like, I would say kind of Good Omens-esque tone of it. I haven't watched it, read the book, don't know Terry Pratchett at all, but what people have told me about Terry Pratchett and what I know about Good Omens kind of fits that vibe. Gadriel gets way over their head into things that they were not expecting to have to deal with, which is hilarious. This was just fun. This was so delightful. I loved Olivia Atwater's Half a Soul last year. I believe that made my top 10 of 2022. It was just the perfect amount of sweet and fluffy and plot and character and just all of these things, and the apocalypse is in there somehow. All of that just kind of in this one wonderful little bundle that is a real quick read and will make your day better. I also loved the way that this book acknowledges that there are other faiths. Basically, the way that this world works out is that, like, the predominant faith of the area is really kind of what is controlling a lot of things. So, like, because Gadriel is a fallen angel, and in, like, the Christian kind of religion, there are people they cannot mess with all that much because they have no, they have no power over them because they don't believe in Gabrielle. The way that it handled all that, I found that very, very interesting. It's a very kind of background thing that you get a tidbit here, you get a tidbit there, kind of comes in towards the end to get a little bit more information on that, and I really enjoyed that. I love that. I love when we see the acknowledgement of other religions, and you really see people think about how would all of these things work together. You can tell Olivia Atwater did that. After that, we are delving back into, I don't know if I would say that this is medieval fantasy, because this feels more like we're dealing with like the 1700s. So this is probably more modern, but we're dealing with another kind of medieval Renaissance-esque type fantasy, and that is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. We are following Jack and Adara, and then two other characters whose names I don't remember, and they are not listed on the back of the book. Jack is called back to the island by Adara, who is his childhood rival. He was very much teased by Adara and the other children on the island because no one knows who his father is. He comes back because Adara's like, hey, we need you to come back. There's some stuff going down. There are some girls going missing. And Adara thinks that Jack can help her figure out how to get these girls back because Adara believes that there is some sort of supernatural, mythological reason behind what's going on with these girls. We also have the parents of one of the girls that go missing as point of view characters. This was so well done. This book has a very loose, soft magic system that is grounded in Celtic, Gaelic, Scottish kind of mythology and folklore. The fact that music is used as magic in some places in this book, just fantastic. And that's why Jack has to come back, because he is trained as a musician and the tribe or the clan's last musician died. It was actually Adara's mother who was the clan chief's wife. And so she is like, it's them kind of having to reconcile with the past. Jack has to deal with all of these feelings about like, well, she needs my help, but can I trust her because of how I was treated? And then there is stuff that like, she also has some issues with how Jack treated her in the past. So it's one of those things that like, things do end up evened out a little bit. There were choices that were made in this book that I was just like, why? This one I do have a vlog for. I'll link it down below. If you want to see my reaction of getting to this moment, it's a little spoilery, I think, but I just was a little bit flummoxed, but at the end of the day, I didn't care. It got me what I wanted. I just had a good time with it. I loved the world. I didn't love the ending. The ending was mean. The ending was annoying. The end, like, why would you do that to me? It made me want to pick up the very next book, like, ASAP. But I couldn't. So there's that. Moving on from there, we couldn't get through this list without me talking about Ally Carter's new book, The Blonde Identity. We are following a woman who wakes up in the middle of the street, in the snow, in Paris, has no memory of who she is, doesn't know her name, doesn't know why she's in Paris, does not know why she is part of an international spy manhunt. She just has the clothes she's wearing and the stuff that is in her pocket and does not know why the very hot spy man is trying to hunt her down and doesn't like her and seems to know her. It is very funny. It's a dual point of view little spy rom-com. It is not serious at all. It is over the top. It is campy. It is a good old spy movie type novel. Obviously, I had a great time with the two main characters, but this, so Ally Carter and I go way back. I have been reading her books since the Gallagher Girls series. I loved those books so much, and this particular book brought back so many of those memories while also kind of taking this up into my adult life as well. I really appreciated getting all of that magic that made Gallagher Girls work so well, but in an adult format. This is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's going to be too fast for some people. Some people are going to go, there's not enough plot, and then there are going to be people going, no, we had too much plot. We should have spent more time. It needed to be longer. I think it is the perfect length. I read this in a day. It was great. I highly recommend the audiobooks. It's funny that a lot of this is about family, actually, as we're going through this whirlwind trek across the world trying to figure out why these people are hunting her and trying to get answers and trying to keep her from dying, and it just is so good. If you enjoy just like if you are looking for just like a fun spy romp, pick this up. After that, we do need to talk about the Murderbot Diaries, specifically Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the series. So far, this has been my favorite of them. I gave this one 5 stars, I gave the first one 4, and I think I gave the third one 4. Let me tell you what the book's about before I talk to you about how much I love the book. So this is about Murderbot, and they are a, the name is self-explanatory. They are a security system that looks like a human and thinks like a human and kind of can behave and pass as a human, and all they want to do is watch their soap operas and not get caught by the company that technically owns them. They are kind of AWOL because of a little bit of a glitch in their software system programming, whatever. And that turns out to be a good thing in All Systems Red, which is the first book. Murderbot is hired on by this group of scientists that are going out to look at a potential mining site on a planet. They run into some issues, some weird software on the other security bots that have been brought along with them. And so Murderbot is like, oh crap, and I have to keep these humans alive. And I'm not supposed to, like, I don't want to care about them, but ah darn, I'm starting to care about them. Shucks. Murderbot is such a grumpy old man. You know that like stereotype where you have this grumpy character, like the without the sunshine, and they don't want to like people. They don't want to be around people. They want to be left alone. And then people come into their life and won't leave, and they're like, I guess I don't want you to die. I love that dynamic. It's so funny. And then watching Murderbot as we've gone through this series, watching Murderbot deal with their humanity and the fact that like they were made to be a killing machine, but that's not what they want to do. They just want to like chill and be left alone, and like the fact that like they are thinking, they're sentient, all of that stuff, but they're still owned by someone is like, that's something that is definitely thought of and explored throughout this series so far. It's just so fun. It's very short. It's like just the perfect amount of story for the number of pages that we get. It is so well paced. There is so much characterization and story and like feeling that you get in like this very short little book. Like, I don't understand how Martha Wells is able to fit all that in there and do it so well, and like probably it should be studied. After that, I promised you guys that this was going to be on here because you guys probably already know that this is going to be This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. I loved this book. This is following Eliza and Cameron. Eliza is the, like, forgotten, escaped, hidden princess of a Jinn royal family. She is, like, supposed to be the savior of her people who are the Jinn. And then you have Cameron, who is the, like, actual crown prince of the empire that Eliza lives in. We're dealing with this whole situation where well, it's not entirely downfall, like there's a whole bunch of history there, stuff that I can't get into because it's spoilers, but just there was a part of why Eliza is in the situation that she's in and why the Jinn are in the situation that they are in is because of Cameron's father and grandfather and stuff going back history. She is currently living as a servant. She is undercover, just trying to like survive. She has no intentions of like trying to be on the throne. She has no intentions of like claiming her rightful place or anything like that. She just wants to survive. She just wants to keep her head down, not cause any trouble, and eventually make enough money that she can move further away and find somewhere that is safer and out of the way. She's been just doing the best that she can since her parents were killed many, many years ago. And Cameron is coming back from the front because his grandfather has called him back. He's kind of been his grandfather's front man on the front lines. That's where he spent most of his time, and he's being brought back for political reasons. His grandfather is trying to kind of put him in a place where he can start to get ready to claim the throne because his grandfather feels like his time is running out. They end up meeting and like are instantly enamored with each other. And so a lot of this is like Eliza and Cameron trying to deal with like their own personal like what's going on, but also a lot of this is Cameron and Eliza being like obsessed with each other. And I really loved it. Like, there is so much pulling this story forward. It had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. There is a feeling of anxiety that you get just reading Aliza's point of view, and it just felt like the way that I was able to be drawn into her head. It's done so well. The way that we get the pining between Eliza and Cameron, the way that that is done and worked, and the way that they are drawn together. It's a little insta-lovey, but it's also kind of like, I don't care. Like, because that tension is there, and the mystery, especially on the part of Eliza, like, the mystery of who she is there, and you can see how that captures Cameron's attention. There are so many things about her that he feels don't make sense, and he's, like, obsessed. It's just, like, watching this unfold and watching all of the political things and some of the stuff that happens towards the end, watching all of that unfold is just really, really interesting. And it was something that kept pulling me through this book, which is why the second book was so disappointing. And I'm still on the fence about whether I want to finish this or not, because I don't know. I liked the fact that Tahira Mafi really gives you an idea of what women's lives were like, because I think a lot of the time we sit there and we go, oh, well, women didn't have a lot of choices way back when. A lot of what we know and what we expect from a woman in a historical setting is really colored by the lives of rich women. And so Tahira Mafi really digs into what it's like to be, and this is a fully fantastical setting, but you can see the history behind it. She is able to dig into the ways that women survive. That is a little bit of an undercurrent, especially in Eliza's point of view or her storyline. She did address how certain societal expectations hit women of the lower class, women of higher class. Like, she did a really good job of showing that. She also did a really good job of grappling with the impact of empire, because obviously we're dealing with an empire in this, and we have a crown prince who has been indoctrinated into this empire. He's got questions, he's got misgivings, and there's a lot of stuff that ends up shattered for him in this book. This next book you are probably expecting to see on this list somewhere if you watched my Spiffbo blog, because it was the winner out of all of the books that I read for that vlog, and that is Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons by Quimby Olson. This is just like, if you are looking for a successor to Jane Austen, there you go. We are following Mildred Percy. She is an unmarried spinster, I think around her 40s, late 30s, something like that, and she is currently living with her sister. She moved in when her sister had her first child and just kind of never was able to move out because she spent most of her life caring for her father, and then she came to care for her sister's children, and so she really hasn't had a chance to do much of anything. She ends up inheriting from their uncle a chest of various odds and ends. Her sister is very annoyed because she was expecting some sort of monetary thing that they could use for the children or something like that. Tells you a lot about her sister. What she does end up inheriting is some old books, notes that make no sense, like diagrams, and this dragon egg, obviously, because it's on the cover. And she and the parson end up forming like this very unlikely alliance, and they end up accidentally hatching this egg because they had no idea it was a dragon egg, and then they have to deal with the consequences of having a baby dragon in Regency England and not knowing quite what to do with it. It was adorable. I loved this book so much. I love the fact that we had an older protagonist. I love the fact, like, the sweet little kind of just beginnings of a romance that we have. Very low key, very much like just kind of there on the back burner. So much of this is just about Mildred, like, coming into her own and learning to stand up for herself and speak up for herself, learning that her wants and her needs and what she wants to do with her life are worth something and worth pursuing. This is an indie published fantasy, so probably not a lot of people are talking about it, but I enjoyed it and I'm going to talk about it. I cannot wait to get to the second book, and I hope there are many more in this series to come. So next, we're going to talk. Like, you guys knew this was going to be on the list. You knew it had to be on the list. This is one of the books that, like, I have not shut up about this year, and you guys were expecting it. I'm sure there are a bunch of you that were actually expecting this to be the #1 book of the year. It was so close. It was so close. I spent most of the year thinking this was going to be my favorite book of the year as well, and that is Painted Devils by Margaret Owen. Now, Little Thieves was all my favorite books of the year last year. I don't know. I think it should have been higher, to be honest. Now that I, like, am sitting down, like, having reread it, I think it should have been higher. Then I think I gave it, like, 4th place. It didn't make it into the top 3, I don't think. Should have been higher. But this book, I don't even know how to talk about it. There will be a reading vlog of me rereading Little Thieves and also reading this. There is a reading vlog that will be coming out at the end of the week, hopefully, of me reading this, because I did actually vlog this experience because I knew I was going to want to vlog that. I love these characters so much. This just, like, this is one of those things that I'm like, I wish I'd had this as a kid. We are following Vanya Schmidt, by the way. The first book is a retelling of the Goose Girl. She is the servant girl in that myth who takes the place of the princess. So she's the daughter, or goddaughter, of Death and Fortune, and she's trying to get away from her godmothers because they kind of are like, well, now that you're of age, you need to choose who you want to serve. And she's like, I just want to be your kid. I don't want to be like my parents. My mother abandoned me with you guys. I just want to be loved. She is masquerading as Princess Giselle. She is using her dual identity as both Princess Giselle and Giselle's servant Marset to steal from the people that are looking for Giselle's favor, that invite her to parties, all of that stuff. She is trying to get enough money to be able to just move far enough away that death and fortune no longer have a claim on her. They can no longer force her to serve either one of them. Unfortunately, people are not happy about their stuff being stolen, so they end up calling in the fantasy version of the FBI because the local police are just no use. This is like fantasy Batcat, but like reversed if you reverse their social standing and their positions. They're just so funny and witty, and I am always a sucker for a thief and a detective narrative. All of the things in the last book have been resolved, and she's trying to figure out, what does that mean for me? What's going on? And she ends up accidentally starting a cult, which I also accidentally did by convincing so many people to read Little Thieves during Amazing Readathon. That was really, really funny, like just slowly convincing people to read Little Thieves. The only thing most people need to know is that both of the main characters, well, there's not two main characters, there's just Vanya. Hers is the only point of view we get, but both the main character and the love interest are demisexual, and it's why I wish I had it as a child. I love this. It is a fantasy version of Poland. Like, Margaret Owen has done such a good job just building this world, and there are so many wonderful characters in here. We don't get the entire cast that we got in the last book, or at least not for the full book, but we do get to see little cameos of them in this, and that always makes me happy. Also, just the little sweet little romance that we have between Vanya and Emmerich, and how they are trying to navigate moving forward in their relationship, and what that looks like for them and what that means for them, especially with their various different pasts. Like, Vanya has a lot of trauma. She was a servant girl in a noble household, and that just not a great place for servant girls to be. Not a lot of people protecting them. I will say there are like massive trigger warnings for parental abuse, for abuse of a minor, all of that stuff in the first book, and then there's definitely trigger warnings for sexual assault, or like the aftermath of sexual assault. She's dealing with that while also trying to move on with her life. So like, it's something that happened in the past. It's mentioned briefly in Little Thieves, but she is actually dealing with the repercussions of that more in this book. I love it. It is such a fantastic series, and I cannot wait for Holy Terrors to come out. I am going to be a Holy Terror until that book comes out. And the final book, my favorite book of the year. Had I remembered that this book was coming out this year, I would have known that Painted Devils was not going to make number 1 on this list. I would have known that, but I'd forgotten. And so here we are with me being completely surprised, number 1, that this book was out this year, and number 2, like, somehow I lost track of that. Don't ask me how, but number 2, I wasn't expecting Percy Jackson to show up. This is the 6th book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. The way that I think it's going to end up working is that you've got the original 5 books that are their own series, and then you have these 3 books that are these next trilogy. I love this so much. I just, like, this was everything that the original series was to me when I read it the first time. Only a little bit more, just because, like, I know, like, so much of what made that first series appeal to me makes so much more sense knowing what I know about my brain now. This is the continuation of the Percy Jackson series. I'm not going to talk about what all of that is. What you need to know is that Percy is in high school, he is in his senior year, and he's getting ready to figure out how to go to New Room College, because like, he's very set on being able to do that with his girlfriend. He finds out at the beginning of the school year that first day of school too. I'm like, could we not have let this kid have like 1 day of normal school? He finds out at the beginning of the school year that because he is one of the forbidden children, he is a son of Poseidon, he's not actually allowed to go to New Rome, but Zeus is willing to overlook that if he can get 3 letters of recommendations from the other gods. This first book is about Percy's first quest to try and get these letter of recommendations. I did not know I needed a book that was just Percy trying to do quests that helped with his everyday life until I read this. Like, the stakes are there. Like, he's in a lot of like life, like dangerous situations, like death-defying situations. There are times that he genuinely could have died. However, like, it's not like the world is going to end if you don't do this quest. The fact that the stakes were so low, it just was so wonderful to see him being able to just like go about his regular life and not have to worry about like, is Kronos gonna take over the world? It was wonderful to watch that, and I just healed something inside of me. It was great. This was everything that I needed this year. Rick Riordan was really able to take what made that first series so magical and revisit it in a way. Same structure, whole new plot, but it is also so nostalgic because a lot of this, we are seeing Percy look back at the previous quests he's done with, like, kind of in hindsight as he is going through this. Some of the things, it feels like the gods are specifically trying to remind him of things that happened in the past. There are so many times that I think authors revive series and, like, you enjoy it and you're like, but why did this need to exist? There's no question as to why this exists. It's filling a need that I had to just be able to see these characters doing their regular, like I am one of those people. It's like, if Rick Riordan wanted to write about these two just doing homework or going to the grocery store, he could, and he did. And he made it interesting. This was everything to me this year, as much as Painted Devils was, but for different reasons. And I just, like, if you haven't watched my vlog of me reading this yet, please go watch that. I go into a lot more detail in that. There are so many moments in it that I just, like, feelings and all of that stuff, and it was like a warm hug in a book. I'm a nostalgia junkie at heart, and this filled all of the nostalgia needs that I had, and I'm so glad, and I cannot wait until book 7. I'm glad they didn't put numbers on the spines, because these spines are very different from the original spines, so, like, at least these 3 will match. Rick, if you put numbers on it, we are going to have a talk. All right, y'all, it is midnight, and I have things to do tomorrow, so we're going to keep this short and sweet. Just let me know in the comments, what was your favorite book of the year? I always enjoy finding that out from people and finding out what their reading year looked like. Again, there will be another video coming out next Monday where I will be talking about the rest of my reading year. I don't know how we're going to fit that into a normal length video that doesn't make me want to cry, but I'm gonna figure it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video, you can check out my worst books of the year up here if you haven't seen that already. And also, you can check out my Percy Jackson vlog, because that's obviously what I am going to be plugging right down here. Yeah, you knew it was coming. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!